Hello Proponomics people, and welcome to the Sunday supplement summary. And this was the supplement that was published on the 11th of February 2024. So I called this week's one, let's talk about the yield curve, baby, because that's how excited I am, but also because I feel that there's quite a bit missing on this in the broader economic analysis and stuff that you read in the media around economics. And I've got to be honest, I can't quite figure it all out. I think I know what's going on, and we'll get into that in a bit more detail. But of course, as per usual, I also went into the usual metrics that I like to discuss. I always pick 4 major macro metrics and then talk about the direction of travel, what's going on. And really, it was one-way traffic last week in terms of positivity, really, for the UK economy. And Andrew Bailey, in a speech that he gave on Monday night at Loughborough University, recognised this really and basically said, look, even if there is a technical recession, which a lot of the newspapers are getting themselves excited about because they're pretty sure that the economy contracted 0.1% in the final quarter of 2023. So that would be the smallest of technical recessions that's possible, a contraction of 0.1 and then a contraction of 0.1. And it could be a real joke because at the moment we're almost certainly looking at an economy that's expanding in the first quarter of 2024, and therefore that recession will immediately come to an end. But 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 18 months down the line, the ONS are prone to revise figures. And if they, like they did last year, found some major league reasons to up their GDP estimates for 2021, then that recession might well be erased from history altogether. So it could be the single greatest non-event of all recessions we've ever seen in the UK. All the signs, all the real-time signs that the things are going well. So, for example, the PMIs, Purchasing Managers Indices, over 54. That's a very, very good score for the PMIs. Remember, 50 is the base score. So 54.3, well above expectations. Rude health, I think, is how you describe the services sector at the moment. And that is the main part of the composite index, which also includes manufacturing and construction. Construction still below 50 at 48.8, but far, far better than anybody expected. And then, of course, we had the Halifax House Price Index, where they embarrassed themselves yet again with a 1.3% month-on-month increase, despite having just predicted a 4% contraction in the market on their figures for a year. That's on the back of last year's woeful prediction of an 8% contraction, when actually the market was up 1.7% for 2023, according to their own numbers. So it's getting a little bit awkward, some of this forecasting, because it really is quite embarrassing for a bank the size of Halifax to be so far out and just try and sweep it under the carpet and really pretend, it just, to me, it looks terrible for their brand and terrible for PR. Just says they don't know what they're doing apart from anything else. But there you go, maybe it's just me. Rick's house price balance minus 18. So that was a pretty positive print, really. Best print for well over a year. Still negative, of course, still more surveyors thinking things are going down than going up. But I would argue that surveyors sometimes are a bit slow and they're always a bit bearish. So I'm not too worried. I'm pretty sure that print's going to be pretty good as we hit February's numbers. Maybe not positive, but certainly pretty reasonable. So then I did go on to talk about the Zoopla report around how the market has been performing, and particularly for first-time buyers. So the 2023 summary, FTB's particularly active as a percentage of people who are transacting, still managing to transact, average deposit 19%. So I think that really probably casts some doubt on whether the 99% mortgage will do a lot, especially as the 100% mortgage was already out and didn't do a lot, and the 95% mortgage is only used very sparingly. So it's another Rwanda by the looks of it for this government, another PR gimmick that may or may not completely backfire, but won't really have any impact. They're more concentrating on things that sound good than things that actually do good things for the country. And I wonder if the country's sick of that by now. Not that the other side will necessarily be any different, unfortunately. But some good insights there into first-time buyers and the sort of market that they're looking at and the pricing that they're looking at. So first-time buyers not completely squeezed out or put off by the price rises. Instead, it was probably people who were less motivated, who didn't want to move up the chain or could delay things by 12 months or however long as they think they needed to in order to get things done. And then the final piece of the jigsaw for this week's supplement was about the yield curve, as I started this video. So remember, the yield curve takes all the yields of all the bonds of different durations and it plots them on a pattern. And it was used, first of all, to show, apart from anything else, where recessions might be incoming. And the yield curve at the moment looks a bit like a snake, serpentine. Helen called it on our Sunday morning live this week, and it is very serpentine. Inverted to start with, which is a lead-in into a recession, although not an immediate one, and has been inverted for over 12 months now, which is not uncommon for the inversion in the yield curve. It's usually 18 to 20 months before it takes place, but inverted for over 12 months and not flattening yet, and it normally flattens before a recession. It's still quite steep. It then flattens over years 5 to 10, so that looks like a pretty difficult period for economic growth. Some of that feeds into the austerity that's baked into the pipeline, I think, in terms of Jeremy Hunt's actions. Then it moves towards a more normal performing yield curve over the 10 to 30 year mark. And let's face it, 30 years out, even the best forecasters in the world are just guessing, which is why I think the long bonds at the moment look like extremely good value. And then at 50 years, it starts to invert again and go back down, which makes sense. But what doesn't make sense to me is the interest rates that are still being paid on long-term debt in the UK, because in the medium to long run, I think we're definitely looking at an environment where the base rate trends back down more to like 1.5% or 2%, because we'll be struggling for growth and we'll need an element of easy money and a credit-fueled society just in order to function, apart from anything else. So that's the summary video, only 6 minutes this week. Hope you enjoyed it, and if you catch tomorrow's video, that'll be on the 4 pillars of investing.